Hello, welcome to episode 10 of Ledoween. As you guys see by today's title, it's going to be the Black Dahlia with the Storytime. So I'm just going to say this right now, like I tried my best to make this the full story as best as I could. I did a whole bunch of research on it. Disclaimer, there is some graphic images. It talks about suicide and rape, so if that triggers you, then please get off. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and hit the subscribe button. Products I am using today I will link down below, and if I keep looking over here it's because my phone's over here with like all my notes. Sorry if I say any of these words wrong. Summarize this unsolved case. Elizabeth Shore, also known as the Black Dahlia, was an American woman that was found in the Leimert Park neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. Her case became highly publicized because of the graphic nature of the crime condition that she was in. Her corpse had been mutilated and bisected at the waist, which means it was cut in half, and her mouth was cut like the Chelsea smile, which also is like kind of like the Joker smile. So let's start at the very beginning of the story. So let's talk about Elizabeth Shore. She was born on July 29th, 1924 in Hyde Park, a section in Boston, Massachusetts. She was the third of 5 sisters, making her the middle child. Her parents were Cleo and Phoebe Shore. Cleo is her father and Phoebe is her mother. 3 years after Elizabeth was born, which is in 1927, her family relocated to Portland, Maine, and then later settled in Medford, Massachusetts that same exact year. Shore was raised and spent most of her life in Medford. While living there, Shore's father, Cleo Shore built miniature golf courses until the year of 1929, which was when the stock market crash happened. This led to the family losing tons of money, and they soon became broke. A year later, in 1930, Cleo's car was found abandoned near the Charleston Bridge, and was said that he committed suicide by jumping out of his car into the river. Phoebe, which is Elizabeth's mom, believed that he was dead, and so her and her 5 daughters moved into a small apartment in Medford, and she worked as a bookkeeper to support her and her 5 daughters. And where she worked was where Elizabeth went to school until their sophomore year, where she dropped out of Medford High School. By the age of 15, Elizabeth had bronchitis and had severe asthma attacks. So Elizabeth had to get some lung surgery. Her lungs were so bad that doctors suggested that she moved to milder climates for the winter months to prevent further respiratory problems. Elizabeth's mother then sent her to Florida with some family friends. For the next 3 years, she lived in Florida during the winter months and with her mom and 5 sisters for the other months of the year. A couple years later, in 1942, Phoebe, Elizabeth's mother, received an apology letter from her so-called dead husband. He was living in California, started a new life there. In December of 1942, a couple months later, Elizabeth decided she was going to go live with her father in Vallejo, California, at the age of 18. So just with this saying, Elizabeth hasn't seen her father since she was like 6 years old, which means that there was like a 12-year gap of her not seeing her father. So wanting to move with him at age 18 was kind of surprising to her mother. Cleo, which was her father, worked nearby at the Mare Island Naval Shipyard on the San Francisco Bay. And a month later, after moving in with her father, Elizabeth decided she wanted to live by herself. This was in January of 1943, and that led arguments between Elizabeth and her father. But after she moved out, she found a job at the base exchange at Camp Cookeneer Lompoc, which is near the Vandenberg Air Force Base, and she was living with several friends with an Army Air Force sergeant who reportedly abused her. She left Lompoc in mid-1943 and moved to Santa Barbara, where she then was arrested on September 23rd, 1943 for underage drinking at a local bar. Authorities sent her back to Medford, but she actually returned back to Florida, making occasional visits to Massachusetts to see her mother and her sisters. While she was back in Florida, Elizabeth met General Major Charles George Gordon, and he was a decorative Army Air Force officer at the 2nd Air Commando Group, trained for deployment to the China-Burma Island Theater of Operations of World War II. Short told all her friends that Gordon had written her a handwritten proposal while he was recovering from injuries from a plane crash that happened back in India. She accepted the proposal, but sadly, Gordon died in a second plane crash of August 10th of 1945, less than a week before the surrender of Japan that ended that war. After that, she went back to Los Angeles in July of 1946 to visit Army Air Force Lieutenant Joseph Gordon, Flinking, whom she knew from Florida. Flinking was stationed at the Naval Reserve Air Force Base in Long Beach, California. And her last 6 months of her life in Southern California, mostly in the Los Angeles area. Before she died, she was working as a waitress for 4 years, so from 1943 to 1947, and she rented a room behind the Florentine Gardens nightclub on Hollywood Boulevard. Short was described to be depicted as an alluring or were to be actress. She had aspirations to become a film star, even though she had no knowledge of acting whatsoever. On January 9th of 1947, she then returned to Los Angeles to meet her family after a trip to San Diego with her so-called boyfriend at the time, and his name was Robert Manley. Manley dropped Elizabeth off at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, where she was to meet one of her 4 sisters. Hotel staff said that they last seen her using the telephone, and the last time she was actually seen was at the Crown Grill Cocktail Lounge on South Olive Street, about half a mile from the hotel. This was the night that Elizabeth Short had disappeared. 6 days later, on January 15th, 1947, was the day that Elizabeth's body was found. And when she died, she was just the age of 22. She was very young when she died. It's sad that she died, like she really wanted to become an actress. But nope, she had died. At about 10 a.m., a woman named Betty Bersinger saw what she thought to be a mannequin in a vacant lot in Learmonth Park, Los Angeles, but sadly it turned out to be Elizabeth Short's body. Naked body cut into 2 from the waist. Betty was so shocked that she ran to the nearest house and to go call the police, and she then informed the police on the telephone what exactly was going on. The area where Betty found Elizabeth was actually a quiet, undeveloped, and deserted, so it took some time for the police to actually find Elizabeth's body. Police and the media to arrive at the scene. The Los Angeles police department began an excessive investigation where they found Elizabeth's body, which was brutally murdered. Elizabeth's body was separated into two parts, her upper part of the body and her lower part of the body, which was separated from the top part of her body about 2 feet away. The top half of her body was laid on the ground face up with her hands stretched above her head and her mouth slashed from the corners to her ears to give a glass grow smile look. The body had severely manipulated cuts all over and superficial tissue loss from her right breast. There were ligature marks on her neck, waist, and ankle, and her anus was dilated, which infatuated that she must have been tied up and raped. There was also a rumor going around that she worked as a prostitute due to the murder because it was labeled as a sex-related crime. They didn't know who she was when she was found, but they later figured out who she was with a match of her fingerprints from previous records from back when she was arrested in 1943 for her underage drinking. Autopsy report of the cause of death was to serve as a concussion and a hemorrhaging from lacerations on the head and face, making it a homicidal violence. I'm just going to be doing the rest of this off of camera because it is going to take a while for me to do, and then I will be back with the story. The time of death was estimated to be around the late evening of January 14th or the early morning of January 15th. The LAPD had over 150 suspects, but no one was arrested for this case. That's why it is still unsolved and no one knows who actually did it, but they were giving a reward of $10,000 for any information about the person who murdered Elizabeth. They got some leads here or there about the case, but all of the leads ended into a dead end, or just they weren't really true. Basically, they know nothing about the killer. After her death on January 21st, 1947, the editor of Los Angeles Examiner received a phone call from a man claiming to be Elizabeth Short's killer. Examiner ended up getting a letter and it read, "Here are Dahlia's belongings," and the envelope had contained photographs and other documents of Elizabeth's belongings. A reporter in Los Angeles was one of the first media people to actually get the story and reveal it for the whole entire world to see. Murder of Black Dahlia is to be linked to another murder, which was the Cleveland torso murder, and this is because victims were brutally murdered in the same manner between 1934 and 1938, and they also had similarities to the Chicago lipstick murder as well as other crimes to be compared to the Black Dahlia and other women during this time period. Black Dahlia's final resting place is in Mountain View Cemetery in Oakland, California, and there's said to be lots of theories and public speculations for this unsolved mystery because of the details about the case. Short's murder has been listed as one of the most gruesome killings of all time. Her life and death have been in tons of movies and TV shows, as well as books. One of the famous books is called The Black Dahlia and is by James Elroy. Another famous movie is also called The Black Dahlia, which is based on James's book, and it is by the director Brian De Palma. I am finally done with the makeup. It would look really better if I actually had some fake blood. Like, was the unsolved mystery story about the Black Dahlia. I really tried my best to make the makeup look as good as I possibly could. Basically, to do this smile, all you need is some liquid latex or Elmer's glue, that works too, and some tissue. And all you do is put the glue or liquid latex on first, build it up with the tissue, and keep applying that until it is thick enough. And then what you do is you carefully cut the smile line like I did, and you have the Chelsea smile. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button. Also, turn on the post notifications so you're notified the next time I post for Ledoween. Also, go follow my TikTok, which is queen_Alexia_YT. If you have not already, I post every single Sunday and Wednesday. So see you guys next time. Bye. I can't smile.